So we're doing Canto 10, Chapter 84, The Sage's Teachings at Kurukshetra, text 66. And on his part, Nanda was also full of affection for his friend Vasudeva. Thus, during the following days, Nanda would repeatedly announce, "I will be leaving later today, and I will be leaving tomorrow." But out of love for Krishna and Balaram, he remained there for 3 more months, honored by all the others. Please repeat. And on his part, Nanda, who was also full of affection for his friend Vasudeva. Thus, during the following days, Nanda would repeatedly announce, "I will be leaving later today, and I will be leaving tomorrow." But out of love for Krishna and Balaram, he remained there for 3 more months, honored by all the Vedas, the others. Sorry. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's followers. After settling that he would leave first thing in the morning, Nanda would then decide, "I'll go later today." And then, when the afternoon came, he would say, "Oh, I'll just stay until tomorrow." Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti suggests one possible reason for his procrastination. Nanda secretly intended to bring Krishna back with him to Vraja, but did not want to break Vasudeva's heart. Thus, his indecision continued for 3 months. Nama Om Shivaya Vishnu today. Srimad Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Vivekvarmani Chanini. Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschachari Shatarini. Okay, so this is kind of light and humorous here. The devotees are showing so much affection for each other. That's one thing that makes it light. Sakya or Sakyu here means friend. Priya means affection. It's a word that also appears in Bhagavad Gita chapter 18. Anya Priyataro Bhuvi. Krishna says, "I'm very dear and affectionate to those who share my message to others, to my devotee." In other words, what is the message? The message of the Gita, the Bhagavad philosophy. You don't need to worry. You're not that body. You are not going to die. Your soul will live, etc. And ultimately about love, loving the Lord. All those things. Anyone who expresses this philosophy to others, who gives classes on Bhakti Yoga or Bhagavad Gita, they are very dear to Krishna. That's Krishna's statement in the Bhagavad Gita. There's so much affection that it's hard for everyone to break away. And so Nanda would say, "Oh, I'll leave a little later on." And then time goes by, time lapses, and I'll go, he just keeps stalling, and there's procrastination, And maybe it's a motive. This was suggested by the acharyas here. Maybe there's some reason for this happening. So just like now with the pandemic, people are thinking, "Oh, I'm just going to go tomorrow." Like our dear Karuna Sindhu, he thought he'll go now, and then he checks out the flights and the airlines, and I'll catch this one, and then someone else gets that cheaper ticket, and then so it's a little bit like that little procrastination. Before I joined the movement, I did a little hitchhiking. I hitchhiked from the West Coast back to Ontario. Part of it was fun. It was actually a lot of fun. Even hitched a train from White River all the way to Toronto. That saved so much time. I was very worried that I would get stuck in Wawa. And there was part of the folklore, hitchhiking folklore in those days. You heard it? Yeah, you heard.
Stuck in Wawa for days.
Were you stuck there?
I got stuck in Wawa.
That's lovely. Yeah. Did you hear the story? How about Harkamar? Did you remember the folklore?
I remember the folklore. I never did it myself.
Okay. I just didn't want to get stuck in Wawa. So at White River, I got a train because everyone was doing it. just get on a train. And the guys know you're there. So, I was in the front of a car, and they said, "No, no, don't go there. Go inside. Go inside." So just on the bare floor, you sleep for a few hours. A few hours later, you're in Toronto. Wow, from White River, it's a long distance.
Why are you stuck in Wawa?
Why?
You have to go west. You have to go through all the towns. So why are you stuck in Wawa?
I don't know.
No one picks you up, Rupert.
That's-
People don't pick you up.
What I was about to say about the story about Wawa, there was one guy, he got dropped off there, and he stuck his thumb out, and no one would pick him up. So he decided, I'm just going into town. And then he went into town, met a lady, and they got married, settled down, had kids.
And he's still in it.
And so it's like a procrastination. I was stuck in a place called, in Saskatchewan. I think it was called Red Jacket. And I was there for a whole day, myself and a friend from New England. We were just stuck there all day. And he decided he was going to call his mom and get her to wire some money so he could fly, get back. And I just stayed there, and I just, eventually someone picked me up. I just slept in the funny thing is that I was there all day, and I decided I can't stand here anymore. One guy felt sorry for me and gave me some chocolate milk, and that kept me going. And then the sun was starting to go down. I said, I'm just gonna start walking, maybe people will take me more seriously in this little town. So then I decided I rolled out my sleeping bag in the median, 2 lanes here, 2 lanes there of the highway. And I just lie in there. And at about 1:30 in the morning, a guy, he honked his horn, hey, do you want to ride? He pulled me over, he saw me, he pulled me, were we on a ride? And I said, yeah, sure, I'll take a ride. Like, that's what happens in the middle of the night. Yeah, I'm getting a little sleepy, And so he was carrying pony urine. And he was a truck that had pony urine in it, which is an ingredient for the pill, for people who don't want to get pregnant, So it's called the Pony Piss Express. That's what they call it. He took me quite some distance, all the way to Winnipeg, and after you're in Winnipeg, then you're closer to Ontario, which goes just forever. So it's all about procrastination and waiting. But you really want to get out, that's the thing. Here it's like Nanda didn't want to go. He was just, that's why I find it quite humorous here. So I'll go a little later on today. So then he just practically planted his roots in there for some time and didn't leave Kurukshetra for 3 months. This is an amazing account of the travels of Nanda. But what we really need to highlight is the aspect of affection and the notion of love that is expressed between the devotees. The relationship is really important in Krishna consciousness. It's kind of like what holds you here culturally, and it's also what wins it's like you pay the ticket through good loving relations to go back to Godhead. Because it is a fact, you cannot go to Krishna unless if you get along well with his devotees. There's no other way. There has to be a way to get, close to the devotees and really relish the relationship and build it. If it's not there, build on it. It's slowly you get to appreciate everybody. It can work the other way as well. If you have mundane consciousness, then as Prabhupada always used to say, familiarity breeds contempt. But that is if you have material vision and you see all the wrong in the other person. So the reverse is that see all the right in someone. You have to see the right in someone. That is the Vaishnava way. And then when everything's right, then there is no wrong, and then you will be with the Lord. Now, when you walk down the street, you pick up on certain attitudes from people, and it depends on certain neighborhoods. There are some people, they're like foul-mouthed, they're negative, they're cynical, and so on like that. How can anybody want to be with such people? You know? How can you stand it? Unfortunately, some devotees have picked up on this culture of cynicism, and most of them are not very active devotionally, and a good number of them are just, they spend time, they believe it's their service to just type out all the things that where things didn't go right in their life, devotional life, and everyone wronged them, and they never wronged anyone themselves. Everyone else is wrong and I'm right. So this is the kind of mentality that has actually put us here in the first place. Let's look at Bhagavad Gita. Sometimes Ichadvesha. Prabhupada uses this shloka. We're going to itcha, like Ichadvesha. Sometimes people ask, why did I come here? How did I get here? What pulled me here? And what covered me over? Maya has two functions. Pulling us down and then covering us over. So you're kind of like trapped, you know. You're basically stuck. And so two reasons, you know, why we are here and what causes us to stay here. Two reasons. Have you got it? Ichadvesha samutena dvandva mohina bharata. So we're talking about the soul, the pure soul, coming into contact with Prakriti, material energy. Purush is coming in contact with Prakriti. And it's not a good combination. One gets kind of like stuck. It's like a tar baby getting stuck with tar. You know, once you're here in this world, your desires are. Do you remember the tar baby story? Those of us who grew up in that.
Uncle Remus.
Pardon me?
Uncle Remus.
Can you tell us the story?
The story?
Yeah.
The tar baby story? Well, Brer Fox was always trying to kill Brer Rabbit. So Brer Rabbit one day made a little rabbit out of tar and sat him on the side of the road. And Brer Fox came along and started saying nasty things to him, and eventually tried to pick a fight with him and got all stuck in the tar, and but was mad because the tar baby wasn't speaking to him, didn't answer his question, and then decided to kill him, of course, but he couldn't.
So let's say if you take one hand to try to pull it out, and then you use another hand to, you know, to get this one out, then you got two hands stuck, and then you might take your legs and whatever else is left, your bottom, and then you're just totally stuck. You know? So that's what it's like in this material world. So we're going to find out why we have come here and why we stay here. What is?
This is Ichadvesha Sukham Dukham.
Ichadvesha samutena. Dvandva mohina bharata. Krishna also states in the Gita that Purusho Prakriti stohi Bhumte Prakriti Jangunan Karunan Guna Samasya Sad Asadyoni Janmasu. This means that the living entity comes in contact with material energy and meets with good and bad elements, you know, by association, good and bad. And that basically sums up material existence, dualities. It's good, it's bad, it's good, it's bad, you know, happy, sadness, okay. Ichadvesha.
O scion of Bharata, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities arisen from desire and hate.
Okay, so it's the desire and the hate is what brings us here. Desire, we can translate as ambitious, you know, or, you know, a love for matter. And then, and the other aspect is that hate. contempt, you know. So it's love and hate that brings us here to this world and keeps us here. You know? So actually we have to switch it off. We have to make some adjustments. We have to not have this disdain for people in general, life in general. Like I was walking with Aishwarya the other day in the evening, and one of those flower shops there, the guy was, you know, water was just coming out of their shop. You know, it just spilled all over. And one guy had to walk around it, and he had this real sinister look, and he started using foul language. It was such a big deal for him, have to walk around the puddle of water. He had to go onto the street, and it was just like, he was so agitated for such a small, trite little thing. You know? Any little provocation can set off hatred and bring out the worst in some people. They have no patience, you know. For instance, in traffic, when it's thick, and people just run down the car and they just hate each other. There was that liquor store over there, right by the railway line. The famous liquor store is probably the best money-making liquor store in the country over there. And there was two guys, they were driving, and one agitated the other. So they came to the stop sign there, and one, you know, because there were light, forced them to stop. So one guy was in a convertible, the other one was a regular car. They both got out, you know, because they had, you know, what I hadn't seen was their rant, let's say, shouting horrible things at each other. And so they both got out of their cars. It was like, almost like it was rehearsed. One guy got out of his car while the lights were red, and the other one came. And they slugged each other for a little bit, and then the lights turned green. So they got back in. There was no love. And just because there was a little bit of like a space issue, it's just not worth fighting over. I mean, we all have battles, you know, that we must fight every day. And in a devotional environment, what do we have to fight with? We have to fight with our senses. We have to fight with our mind. And sometimes if we have a difference with each other, we kind of like just hold it inside and, you know, maybe don't take it so seriously. But you have to pick your battles, you know. And that just slugging somebody just because they might have, you know, moved in a little too in front of you a little too early. It's just not worth it, and getting angry over. So this is why this tendency towards anger and lust and greed, the three gateways to hell, is what's keeping us here. Keeping us down here, because there's this contempt, there's this hate, and there's also this strong desire. So this is a key verse to remember. If anybody asks you, why did we come here in this world in the first place? There it is. So what chapter is that?
Chapter 7.
Chapter 7, text. We'll get it in a second or two. Just remember that if you want an answer, it's right there.
7:27.
7:27, everybody can remember. 7:27. That's why we fell into the material. Now in Christian theology, what do they tell us? Why did Adam and Eve, who were like glowing beings, liberated souls, moksha, why did they fall into the material world where they had shameful bodies, looking bodies? Why? What was the story? Does anybody know?
The why or the how?
Why and how? Oh, a little.
Why they defied an order of God. So
They defied an order of God because God put some restrictions on them. Because, as we say, the jiva soul has limitation, has all the qualities of God, but not in the same Quantity, yeah. Not in the same quantity. So God said, you can enjoy my paradise, but there's one tree that you should not take from. It bears a fruit. And so the story goes that Eve was enticed by the devil, by Satan, came in the form of a serpent, said, eat from this tree, there's no problem. So she offered it to Adam, and then they both took, and then they fell down into the material world because they defied the laws of God. And so religion, even though it's like it's a dirty word these days, religion comes from, it has some connections with Latin, and it means to follow, to take direction from, to follow dutifully, and this is the actual understanding of what it means. Dharma sometimes is the Sanskrit word that replaces religion, and Dharma also means to follow that which should be followed, that which is also instinctively to be followed and natural. So there's some similarities there. But we're supposed to go beyond religious practices, beyond dharmic practices. We're supposed to love, we're supposed to, like bhakti and prema, Prabhupada says it's the same thing. Prema means intense love, deep love. Hard to find an English word for it to describe what is bhakti. Prema also means to love somebody, again, a deep love, a divine love for the divine, not love for the mundane. So this chapter, and particularly this canto, helps us to understand how relationships play a part in your spiritual life. Last night when I went for a walk, I met a lady. I used to go to Belinda's. I used to go to Belinda's. You mean Govinda's? Oh yes, Govinda's. Okay. And I told her we're closed now. I said, I'm becoming a Buddhist. You're Buddhist? I said, no, Krishna. Then she asked about the Belinda's. And she said, I'm becoming a Buddhist. I wanted to spend a little more time with her, but she was actually into her dog more than she was with me. And I want to say, well, we did carry on discussing that Buddhism and Krishna consciousness has a lot of similarities. I said, we look the same, we have the same language, it's Sanskrit, and we believe in some of the same values, simplicity, vegetarian, etc., etc. I want to go on and say, but we actually believe God is a person. In Buddhism, they don't. It's not particularly encouraged, at least in some sects. But where there's a person, there's love, like real deep love. And when God is acknowledged as being a person, then it can transpire, the relationship. It's very hard to have a relationship with nothing, right? If all is nil, and this is the Buddhist philosophy. Shiva was sitting with his wife Parvati, and she was asking, what will it be like in the future? What will it be like, and what will be your future life? He was just saying how I will come into the world like a monk, and I will teach a Buddhist philosophy. So that ended up being Shankaracharya. And so, what is that philosophy? It's nihilism. It's of nirvishesha, shunyavadi. It's about nothingness. Like nothing is really important. Nothing is of great value. Except for when people say something, then it's important. If there's nothing to say, then don't say anything. But there are some people who carry on and speak along those lines. So love is important, and many people who have come to Krishna consciousness have looked at the Mayavad approach to spirituality, the Buddhist approach, and have felt that there's a lot of good aspects to it, but it's not fulfilling enough. So fulfillment comes from warm, affectionate relationships, and ultimately with Krishna. So we have mentioned it before that people do have options about their spirituality. There's a lot of people who love nature, and so we can point them to the universal form. We can do that. And you can tell them the trees are the hairs of the body of the Lord. The waterways, the creeks, it's the bloodline and so on like that. The hills are the elbows, wherever you have bones sticking out, the mountains and the hills and so on like that. And so a lot of people have this kind of inclination towards environmentalism. We can point them in that direction. But then there's those who say, oh, anything that has shape, form, personality, it's all bad news. Okay, Brahmajyoti is for you. So you go to the department store, superstore. This is for you. We have something for everybody on the spiritual marketplace. And so that's it. We're talking about sort of nothingness. Okay, but enjoying the glow. Okay, and then we have those who are more of the yogi types, and they want to appreciate some personal aspect of the divine, and so we will point them in the direction of Paramatma realization. And then what if you want a little bit more? I really want to love. I really want to communicate with God on a personal level. I believe this is the ultimate, the summum bonum of all relationships, is to love God and enough with this, kind of like love in the physical world. Love in the physical world is really, it's all mixed. It's really all mixed. It's happiness and sadness, and people who love in the material world, they're always agreeing and disagreeing. It's more disagreement than anything else. So real love is something that's not tainted. Mind you, we can talk about disagreements in the spiritual world as well. But what makes it wholesome is the fact that Krishna is the central point. It's not me anymore. So we have to enter into the egoless world. We must really come to the point of, as expressed in the moods of Shikshastakam, whatever you want, my Lord Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying, give me an embrace, or you can kick me, whatever you like. I'll just be your servitor, your assistant, and I'll love you life after life. So it's unconditional, that's what we say. And Prabhupada used that term, unalloyed love. Does anybody know where that word came from? Why Prabhupada sort of put that into the literature in his purports, unalloyed? You want to give up? Okay, when Prabhupada landed in America, he spent a few short hours in Boston, okay? And he was waiting at the port before embarking off to New York City. And while he was waiting, he saw there was at the port a company, a steel company, and there was like a marking there. Either it was their label or something. Unalloyed steel. That means clean steel, not mixed with other metals. So Prabhupada contemplated on that, and he understood that unalloyed steel means when it's not mixed, it's pure. So then he started to think, I like that word. So it's unalloyed, pure devotional service. Not conditional, not mixed with jnanam, karma, etc., all these other things, but pure, where the love is deep. And this is why he uses the word again and again, which I don't think any other authors have used this terminology, but it's quite appropriate. It means not conditional, pure, not tainted with anything. And that's where we want to go. So we are admiring these personalities we're reading about. We revere them, Nanda, Vasudeva. We're both divine dads, you could say. And they have so much affection and appreciation for each other. I was talking with Pancharatna, our godbrother, who some years ago we were in Kolkata together at the temple. Pancharatna was one of those persons who was a draft dodger from the States. He came up to Toronto and he visited our temple. And last Rath Yatra, he had come again. It was like 40 some years later. Last time he came to Toronto was when he was a draft dodger. Came to the temple. That's how we got to know about Krishna. We have draft dodgers. I know at least 3 who came to Canada, Toronto in particular, to avoid getting conscripted. And he and I were standing at the veranda at the Kolkata temple. Across the street there's a little lake. And there's a little island in the lake. And people go and walk around there. And that's kind of like what saves the place, because it's Kolkata, Ugh. Anyways, we were talking quite casually, and he said, well, here in India, people, they really value relationships. Relationships are very important to people. And I could understand what he was saying. Mind you, a lot of people get neglected there. There's a lot of poverty. But in general, people love each other. It's very strong. Emotions are strong, especially in Bengal. They're very strong. Feelings are important for people. Their bonds are tight. Sometimes it gets a little nasty, but we hear more stories about how people are very attached to each other. So for me, that's one reason why I like to go to India, because you can see some of these relationships, how important they are to each other. And parents with their children, and children with their grandparents, and husband and wife, In fact, even Indian households, I've been in a lot of places, they'll just, right in front of you, they'll say super nice things about their